Hi there, it's Farmer Jane here at Specht Haven. Today we're going to do our April garden tour. So we're starting here, basically looking through the barn. This is where the barn will be. And hopefully this video is okay. It's a little breezy. Hopefully the sound won't be too bad. But we're going to start here. I think that's kind of a good plan. So this is kind of a focus point for all of my videos. So starting here, we're at the end of our driveway, which is at least the driveway that goes to the barn. Eventually the house will be sitting out there, kind of where you see the tractor actually, and there'll be a branch of the driveway that goes that direction. So here we just came up the driveway we have right now, which comes straight to the barn, and we have our barn flagged out. So that is on the way. So walking through the barn, I put these chairs here just to be kind of cute and mark like the front porch of the barn. So we'll come through here as if we just walked out the barn doors and into our gardens. So to the left, we have 11 apricot trees, pretty much in 2 rows. And then we have to the right, I'm counting, sorry, 2, 4, 6 established, decent sized pear trees. There are a couple more small ones tucked in different spots, and there's more down there. So I know I have at least a dozen total. But right here there's 6 pear trees with a couple other smaller trees. And so to the right we have Paradise Gardens. To the left we have Apricot Gardens. So Apricot Gardens, there are 3 separate spaces. So I numbered them actually starting down at the end, which would be as if we were coming out of the house. So we're actually starting here with Apricot Gardens 3. So what we're seeing so far are some crocus, cute little purple flowers. The daffodils are coming up nicely. This garden is called the Queen's Heart, and most of what's planted here, at least initially, even with the daffodils and the tulips, should be more of a white, and there's some dark red tulips. I thought I planted white crocus as well, but clearly I didn't. So some purple crocus here, but otherwise this garden, the Queen's Heart, will be all white and deep, deep red flowers. You can see there's a sedum here coming back nicely. Has that dark red to it. So it looks like some of the ryegrass is coming back as well. I did a cover crop of ryegrass and thinking that was not supposed to come back, but maybe it didn't freeze enough. Or when I got in here to start chopping it down, there were already some allium and tulips popping up, so I had to be a little careful. So out there, if you can see those broader leaves, there are allium coming through already. But again, there should be some tulips coming through. Each of the trees has crocus and daffodils. And then down here further to the corner, this is a crepe myrtle, and it's called Queen something, I'm forgetting right now. So crepe myrtle here, I have a couple of tulips in front of the crepe myrtle, and then on each side, so coming down, let me come down to the corner. So from this corner, as you go toward that apricot tree and toward this apricot tree, I did plant lots of small bulbs last year. So I believe they're all white. I believe there's striped squill, maybe snowdrops, and I think the allium is a little short white allium. Finally starting to see something popping up. I'm guessing it's the squill, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll see how that goes. And then right here behind the crepe myrtle, there are some magic wands. I think there's either 3 or 5 of them, and some chocolate Joe Pye weed. I'll have to look up the rest of the name of the magic wands. I can put those descriptions somewhere. So lots of white and dark red allium already here. Again, added more bulbs with white squill and other bulbs that should have white flowers, and then some tulips that I added. It was like Queen of the Night tulip even, perhaps. So all coming up, and even though there's some grass out there, This is really good progress for this garden because it got completely overgrown last year. So I did add a significant amount of mulch a few weeks ago. So hopefully I'll be able to get it in better shape this year. And next we have Apricot Gardens 2 is called the King's Crown. So again, tulips around each of the apricot trees and a different type of sedum that should have a little yellow flower. So this is an herb garden, the King's Crown, but then any flowers I'm adding to this herb garden, I'm kind of sticking with a yellow theme, partly because there's a lot of dill. It was all dill last year because I just didn't have the garden 100% complete with the edging and everything. So I only had the center portion and I planted dill in the center. And dill, of course, makes kind of a yellow flower, so that's why I continued with the yellow theme. Even the bird feeders here are yellow. So I have finch feeders here. I do have my puddler ready. I can bring that out. And then I did plant seeds here last week and even maybe prior to that. Yeah, prior to that as well. Last week I planted carrot seeds. Hopefully they're okay. I did pre-sprout them. I see a couple of them. It's probably hard to see in the video. There are some that looks like they made it okay. I also have garlic that I planted in the fall, so I'm really excited that it took off because I just on a whim did that at the last minute. So we have garlic. We are going to have some vegetables here this year. So because this is a nice garden that's in pretty good shape, has the nice edging, has some nice earth being established. So I am going to use it for a few vegetables this year since I don't have all my vegetable garden space ready. So we also have witch hazel here. I did see just a little bit of their winter blooms. There are a couple of tulips coming through. Those are a real pretty yellow tulip. There's also that same sedum in the corners. It's just a little bit of it. It definitely looks healthier, the ones that are planted by the trees. So what we're going to have here that I've at least started, that hopefully will come through, is I have thyme, I have cilantro, chervil, parsley, dill, tarragon, starting some sage from seed at the house. Hopefully that will do okay. And then basil, waiting to plant the basil till it's warmer. But then on the inside part, so the inside part is all dill, and then on each edge I have something. So there's the garlic, then carrots, then I have some radish and beets. So that's how this garden is shaping up. Not much to show yet except for the garlic popping up and the beautiful daffodils on their way. The next garden is Apricot Gardens 1. This garden is named Wunderschönen Haven, which means beautiful haven. And this one is just full of lots of beautiful flowers. As much native as possible, but obviously the daffodils and other bulbs aren't native. You can see a couple daffodils here. There's a gorgeous one. I might have to take this one home. Beautiful. A little bit taller daffodil. Several varieties of daffodils all throughout. There were some crocus. It looks like most of them have already faded. There's something else here. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what it is when it blooms. Oh, there were some iris, I think, that are largely done. Oh, I see some crocus we'll be able to check out. There's penstemon out there. A couple different varieties. There are some true natives in this garden that I planted from, I guess you'd call them plugs. This here is a false indigo. So there's one false indigo here. There were 3 initially, and only 1 survived. So there's 1 here, then there's several down at the other end. So I need to finish mulching. I didn't quite get it done at the end of the year. So that's high on my list of tasks, is to get the mulching done. So again, there were some irises there. There are places where the allium is coming up. There's lots of allium in this garden, lots and lots. We'll be able to enjoy that as it comes. There's also viburnum. There's, let's see, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 viburnum. This is a white butterfly bush, and then a white lilac. So the lilac leaves are coming out. Lots of henbit, which I know most people are not fond of. I just think it's the cutest little flower. We'll be trying to get some of that out. This is our insect hotel. This is a spirea, and you can see a nice little section of crocus. So this looks really pretty right now. The spirea, nice red leaves coming through, and a little bit of crocus. And then I added here some snapdragon seeds. So there's snapdragon seeds here. We'll see how they do. I tried to start a tray of them at the house, and they're just not too easy because they're so tiny. There's also 2 witch hazel just to the left there, and then 2 more witch hazel here. It's hard to see them because they haven't greened out yet. So there's the false indigo. There's lavender here. Lots of flowers. There's coreopsis and oxeye sunflower. There's Culver's root, heliopsis. Lots of that should be coming through. Here's some more beautiful daffodils. There's more of these taller ones. Just gorgeous. Daffodils aren't my favorite, but they're a good thing to have around the base of the trees, partly just to take up space and keep the weeds away. So that's why I've done a lot of daffodils around a lot of the fruit trees. Here's an iris left. This might be the only one. So these are dwarf iris. They were kind of just a last minute purchase at the end of fall. That's a hyssop coming back. Looks great. You can see some more. There's allium in here as well, so there's kind of alternating iris and allium here. There's more lavender. This is a phlox that was free, so I just stuck it here since this is just lots of flowers in this garden. There should be lots of bulbs in here. So these bulbs are from a couple years ago, and I can't even remember everything that's here, but there's a squill. It's really pretty. There's a crocus. But there should be lots more coming. There are some daffodils. More bulbs here. Some more allium. Some of this we just have to wait and see what pops up. I have notes somewhere. There's one more iris. Those might be the only 2. There's an iris. They're really pretty. There's a crocus. Here we have more penstemon. We have shoot speedwell, I think. Veronica here coming back. And I believe these are cosmos. So I planted seeds here last year and I just didn't do it the right way, I'm sure. So these cosmos actually stayed over the winter. I believe that's what's going to come through here. We also have some baptisia. I have just 3 baptisia. This should be good. Here's something pretty. Here we have anemone. So a little drift here of anemone. There's more crocus here that are already faded. And then this nice pathway I finished last year. There's more flowers out here. There's liatris in here. And aster right here. There should be, again, lots more allium. There's another kind of penstemon here. And here, there were a lot of crocus here as well. They've already faded. So still lots of fine tuning to do in this garden. Of course, that's most of the gardens. I think the herb garden is the most complete. Lots of work to do here though in Specht Haven, but it should be looking really pretty. I think it looks pretty now. I think the henbit looks pretty. But I had made a lot of progress with the edging last year, so more progress to make this year, and it should be getting a little more manageable. So we'll just come back this way because we're going to head over here to the Hummingbird Garden. And I see lots of the tiny daffodils we can check out. So here we have 3 nectarine trees. And I have a total of at least 4. There might be another 1 or 2 tucked back on the other side of the lake. But there's 3 nectarine trees here. For the 4th one we'll get to is down closer to the lake. All 4 of them are not in good health. They're fruit turn into like mummies. So they surely are fighting a fungal issue that I'm going to try to work on. And that's what has inspired some of the planting right around close to them, chives and chamomile, something I'm planting around these nectarine trees. But in this little section right here, because there was a nice area, I'm planting for the hummingbirds, and I had a, okay, I'm not sure when the low battery light came on. I'm gonna step back and redo this part. Here we have the Hummingbird Garden, and the Hummingbird Garden includes 3 nectarine trees. There are 4 of them in this area. There's one closer to the lake. These 3 are grouped together. All 4 of the nectarine trees are not in good health. Their fruit kind of turns into mummies. I think they have a fungal issue. So that's partly what's inspiring the planting around them. I've done a lot of chives, and I'm going to do lots more chamomile this year. Ended up with a little bit, but I'm going to try to do more this year. So chives and chamomile going around each of these trees. But the section here is devoted to hummingbirds. So this is also named because when I first purchased the property, which is almost 9 years ago now, I was standing out here and a hummingbird buzzed by my head. It really scared me. Of course, I thought it was some kind of bee, but I realized it was a hummingbird. So I've always called this kind of pathway between the nectarine trees here, the apricot trees there. I've always called this Hummingbird Pass. So this kind of pathway that goes through, and then this is the Hummingbird Garden. And last year I had black-eyed Susan vine and firecracker vine, and definitely saw some hummingbirds. I put hummingbird feeders on the shepherd hook, the 2 shepherd hooks. So we definitely had a couple hummingbirds around last year. So this year I'm trying to plant a lot more red, and a lot more flowers for the hummingbirds. So not too much coming up over here. There's penstemon down there as well. There's hummingbird mint, the agastache should be coming back. A couple of larger chive variety. There's 2 in front of each of the trees here. And also here I have this bench, but I'm going to be putting a brick platform here for the bench to sit on because it's a glider, so it does not sit well on the mulch. So I'm going to do a nice little brick platform, and you can see on each side I have some daffodils. They're much cuter over here. Lots of daffodils here. Just adorable. These are much smaller variety. And then again the chives. So there's 2 chives, and then there's also a coral bell in between, heuchera. It's reddish. Hopefully those will be okay. This one looks much better than on the other side. Then there's a large drift of daffodils here. And I think it is at least 2 different varieties. One taller and one shorter. So then we'll try to get a little bit further here, but we'll just focus on this area today for the garden tour. I might be able to get out to the plum trees and at least show you the blooming plum trees. This is a cherry tree. So we have 2 cherry trees here. I'm going to be working on these guys a lot this year. You can see some striped squill. That's good to see. I was wondering if it was still here. So striped squill, and there's a couple different varieties of daisies here. Some of them look like they're coming back okay. Might not be all of them. And I'm planning to add a lot more daisies here. Something I read was a good companion for cherry trees. Here's the other cherry tree, a little bit bigger. Again, some daisies. A couple of those daisies look a little better. I don't see any striped squill here. The ones here may not have made it. I think there was at least one at one point. So then as we go this direction, again, basically in 2 rows, but certainly some of those trees didn't make it even before I purchased the property, because I think they were a solid 2 rows. All of the fruit trees are about 20 feet apart, and I can even see stumps from a couple that didn't make it before I purchased, and then a couple that I've had to take out as well. So there was a solid 2 rows there, but remaining we have 3 apricot trees, 2 cherry trees, 3 nectarine trees, 2 cherry trees. Then we have the 11 apricots. Then we have 6 nicer sized pears and a couple more small trees. Not sure what that pretty one there is, if you can see the white blooms. I've never seen fruit on it. But this is the 4th nectarine tree. And here we have the butterfly garden. So there's lots of milkweed starting right around here that was already here. So I'm working on adding other varieties. So it's the common milkweed. So I'm looking to add other varieties like the butterfly weed. Planted a full section here of daffodils last year. And there's probably a couple hundred daffodils in here. There's also some allium that should be coming up. And started working on this path and didn't get it finished. Now I have to work a little harder before I put the gravel down. We also have here, we buried our Boston Terrier a year ago. So this is where she stays with us. Nice pretty spot. But all in here will be the butterfly garden that I work on, but then again there's still naturally a lot of milkweed in this area. There's now some crocus and tulip in here. I believe this is called a monarch crocus, the pretty orange. So lots more work to do. I tended to kind of start things and didn't get them finished. There's some clematis here that I thought was the vining type, but it's not. But that's okay. If it comes back and looks pretty, that's fine by me. So still a little trellis here. There you can see the daffodils. So this is a really pretty little spot here by the water. Now you can get this view. So you can see there's a large area in between. That's a really nice grassy area. You know, a lot of these areas are overgrown. This was overgrown. It was completely thick with an invasive ornamental pear. So it took a lot of work to get that down and out. Took a couple years to get that under control, and then last year was the first year that I really kept this mowed, and it's looking pretty good. So that brings us to Paradise Gardens. So again, lots of beautiful daffodils coming up. You can see those at each tree. This is where I have most of my bird feeders, and for sure raccoons, for sure deer occasionally come over here and pull the bird feeders down. So that's what's happening here. Also at the end of this year, because this got quite overgrown, I tried to put pumpkins here, got completely overgrown. So I'm attempting to change that, and I'm going to keep this mat, although it keeps blowing up. I didn't get long enough landscape pins. So I have to keep putting it down, as you can see, but another work in progress, and I will do a fall vegetable garden here this year, and after that it might go more to flowers. So this is Paradise Gardens 1. So here we have the 5 pear trees kind of make this nice rectangle. Here you see the mat, which is partly down and partly not. So this whole section is called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And the idea here just being to do lots of really pretty colorful things. Lots of just extra flowers that I like that didn't really fit with any of my other themed gardens. So that's the plan for here eventually. But the daffodils are looking great. I believe this is a spiderwort coming back. A couple other things I think will come back here. There was some more, it was the grape hyacinth, muscari. And you can see there's just a couple. There should be more, but there are only a couple that seem to have survived. Then the next section, so as we get past the nice rectangle here, the next section, which is Paradise Gardens 2, I have named Garden of Eden, because this is where I did first get some edibles. So I have blackberries here on the trellis. Then on the other side I have strawberries and asparagus. And again, unfortunately, a lot of weeds got in there, a lot of clover, but some other weeds that I have to get under control. But not too bad. I just wanted to get the strawberries and asparagus established because I knew they would take a little bit of time. I do have some flowers I started putting here. There were some of those beautiful iris that have already faded, but it looks like there's some daffodils here as well. And I just kept adding pine cones here by the blackberries. So I will be adding my tomatoes here this year. Again, just since I don't have what will eventually be my vegetable gardens established, I'll be using different areas. So I'm going to do a tomato guild where you see the alfalfa bales there. Then our next garden is Paradise Gardens 3. And this one is called Little Garden on the Prairie. So this one, it initially started at least as definitely native flowers, some black-eyed Susan, some echinacea, other natives that I got. I believe the black-eyed Susan went a little crazy. I think that's what most of this green you see here. I think it's black-eyed Susan, but it's a variety that's more bushy. But there's also some daisies, there's hyssop, there's some allium, a beautiful allium called Purple Rain that I just had to have. There's alyssum that grew last year. I'm not sure how much of it will come back, but then some creeping thyme here, which lasted great through the winter. So the creeping thyme definitely got established down here. There's prairie clover that wasn't doing too great. We'll see how it does. This was alyssum. I can see, I know it's hard to see in the video, I can see some of those perennials coming back. A couple of daisies. Here we have a salvia. And in the middle, I think that's prairie dropseed in the middle. This will be really pretty again. And then I do have lamb's ear here. Not sure if that's native. I need to get in and clean it up. It's coming back nicely. But this was a gift from my neighbor. So I'll clean this up. And then there's some cat mint. That's coming back. A different variety of creeping thyme here in a different grass. And then I have this cute little small arborvitae. This was a gift. So this was a spot I thought could use a little extra green. The two trees here, one of them for sure is a pear tree. I'm not sure what this one is. I did add a couple of interesting echinacea here last year. We'll see if they come back, like a sombrero orange and another one that was yellow. So not a lot of color here yet other than green, but green is good. And again, I had purchased clematis for this archway, but then I realized it wasn't a climbing clematis. So I'm going to put, what's it called? I'm going to put a different vining flower here this year and work on this pathway. So this is Paradise Gardens, or sorry, yes, Paradise Gardens 1, 2, and 3, somewhere over the rainbow, the Garden of Eden, and Little Garden on the Prairie. Then as we leave this area, so this is more the area that will be, close to our barn, close to our house, almost more of our yard, if you would call it that, where we'll spend a lot more time around. Sorry for the interruption here. I decided to split this video so that it will be at least a little bit better. The second video will be shorter, but this was a good place to stop. So I'm going to stop here, and part 2 will be what I call the far orchard. So please go to the video for part 2 for the rest of the April garden tour. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next part.